Leo sio siku ya siasa. Kuna siku ya siasa itakuja, kila mtu afae rangi yake, tukutane kwa kiwanja. Saa hizi tunaongea na tunapanga mambo ya maendeleo ya watu wa Kenya. Ni kweli ama si kweli bwana? Na hii kazi mulitupatia. Nyinyi mumetupanga na kazi. Kila mtu ako na kazi yake. MCA ako na kazi yake. Mjumbe ako na kazi yake. Governor ako na yake. Mimi niko na yangu. 2022 nyinyi ndio mtasahihisha, mtatufanyia mtihani. Yule mtu ameanguka mtihani atembee nyumbani. Yule mtu atapita mtihani aendelee na kazi. Ama mnasema nyinyi watu wa Nyeri? Si nyinyi ndio mtatusahihisha? Si nyinyi ndio wenye kazi? Ama mnasemaje? Si mimi mliniambia nipange mambo ya elimu? Si nimeajiri walimu 76,000? Si mliniambia nipange mambo ya kilimo? Bei ya mbolea si imeteremuka kutoka 7,000 mpaka 2,500? Si kahawa ndio hiyo inalipa zaidi? Si chai ndio hiyo inalipa zaidi? Si maziwa tuko na minimum return? Si mliniambia nipange ajira hawa vijana? Si manyumba ndio hii inaendelea? Si vijana wanafanya kazi? Si mliniambia nipange masoko? Si masoko mimi najenga Kenya hii? Si mliniambia nipange barabara? Si barabara mimi najenga pande hii? Si mtihani mimi nangojea 2027? Lego kana tiguo. Si namna hiyo bwana. Uongozi si urembo, ni kazi. Si ndio? Si mnataka mtu ya kufanyia kazi? Si tukijenga barabara kila mtu anatumia? Si tukipanga soko kila mtu anatumia? Si tukipanga elimu vizuri watoto wote wanafaidika? Basi hiyo ndio kazi mlinipatia, na mimi nitafanya bidii. Ati mimi ni Zubai ati alafu nianguke mtihani? Mimi siwezi hiyo. Sijui kama tunaelewana bwana. Tuko pamoja? Watu wa Nyeri tumeelewana? Mnasema tuungane. Mnasema tushirikiane. Tupeleke Kenya mbele. Hebu niole wale wanasema tuungane tupeleke taifa letu la Kenya mbele.
Welcome to Fireside, the home of politics, policy, and policy. Today we've got a panel made of some of the most successful political analysts in Kenya. For the first time, we'd like to welcome Advice Mundalo.
Yeah.
You've got a very strange name, Advice.
Unique. Let's go with unique.
Oh, we go with unique, yeah?
Yes.
So we hope to get you a pieces of advice.
Thank you.
And Odede karibu sana.
Thank you.
The last 1 week, we've had what one may describe as high-octane politics in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
From the time the former DP, Rigathi Gachagua, was impeached, President Ruto has not made a visit to Mount Kenya. And people are beginning to say that the ground is so hostile and nobody wants to see President Ruto. And after 6 months, President Ruto made an entry. And then, of course, we had JB Muturi coming up with what has been described as Salvos, revealing the working of the cabinet.
Yeah.
And he said that he's not a normal man. You're not going to push him over. But before we go to that, what have been your major events of the week?
Thank you. Of course, you already have mentioned some of the major events of the week. But I think the Parliamentary committee vetting some of the list, nominated people in the list for the PSS was also a big highlight, if you ask me, because some of these people are actually going to be in the public offices at that higher level for the first time. You know, if somebody has been a member of parliament before or a CS before or whatever before, it's a bit easy. But someone who is stepping in that office for the first time, especially including the young people like Fikirini. That to me is a highlight. The other highlight is the IEBC vetting. There were some like Professor Dual, there's a feeling like he's even overqualified, if you ask me, compared to...
Yeah, actually, I would agree with you, because when Professor Dolo was speaking,
yes,
number one, he sat with confidence.
Yes.
And he answered all the questions with the highest level of confidence.
Yes.
To the extent that one wonders, why should it be that for you to be the chairman of IBC, you must be a lawyer? Yeah. Because from his presentation, he's overqualified. I mean, maybe we should even repeat the law to make it that...
At some point, I thought, why didn't he go for the chairmanship? Instead, he applied for the commission. So somehow, it feels like he's in the range or above some of the people who applied for the chairmanship. So those two...
To be chairman, you must be a... To be chairman,
you must be a lawyer. And now you understand why I say lawyers... did a lot of work at Bomas in the new constitution, in the constitution 2010. They made everything almost legal. And that
while other professionals were asleep.
While other professionals, engineers didn't have much to do with that constitution. Doctors didn't do much. But lawyers were like 3/4 of every committee that came up with the Constitution 2010, 3/4 of every committee were lawyers.
So would
I don't know whether by default or by design, but they happen to be very many.
So would you blame the lawyers or you blame other professionals?
No, I wouldn't blame anyone. I'm just thinking Kenyans are getting awake every day. By then, not even myself, if you ask then, I wouldn't feel like I feel today. But today, Kenyans from all walks of life get embedded in the political processes. Sometimes back it was actually left for lawyers, including when we were young. 3/4 of parliamentarians were just lawyers, legal profession, because they understood what governance is, maybe ahead of many people. But so those are the two major highlights, I would say, apart from what we are going to talk about.
Advice?
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for having me on the fireside for the first time. Just to start with the question that you actually started with in terms of the highlights of the week, and I wouldn't go very far from what Meshack has highlighted, because one, of course, the vetting of the PS is something that we've really been looking at keenly.
The principal secretaries.
The principal secretaries, as that begins in Parliament. And of course, notable among that is the entry of some new people, and of course also looking at the political dynamics within the list of the PSs, because you look at the list of the PSs that actually made it, and it screams more of the politics, not just the qualifications, but more of the politics. You can be able to see the scream of Azimio. You can be able to see the scream of the broad-based government. I was able to see, I think Honorable Millie is now certified, because at some point she had said that it is broad-based, but the base was not... was not broad enough.
To use your words, did you see the scream? To use your words,
yes.
Did you see the scream of Jubilee?
Not quite in the PSs, and I know that's quite a technical question. Yes, but there was no scream of Jubilee within the PSs list, as was within the CSs when the broad was broadening. Yeah, but now also to speak about now the vetting of the IEBC commissioners, also that came out, and I agree with you that some of the commissioners really, I saw the CEO of the NDI also there, and to me I think he also did quite some good job. I saw the prof there as well, and I have the same questions about the chairmanship, because we have had what I would describe modestly as a conmanship that has been begun to this country by the lawyers. Because the chair of the IEBC and the legal fraternity, you wonder where exactly does that relationship come in. Now, when you come to the judiciary as well, the judiciary has to be headed by the Chief Justice, who must be a lawyer, and then the equivalent of the CEO of the judiciary, who is the registrar, again must be a lawyer. So you wonder why, because the registrar is essentially just an administrator. It is like the CEO who would be able to run these studios, like the CEO of any other parastatal. Why exactly is this a law? So unlike Meshack, who is modest and says he would not love to blame no one, I think in my view, I would want to blame the lawyers, because when we accord you the responsibility to guide the country, it is selfish of you when you pull most of the meat towards your side, and then we want to really be modest about it. I think the lawyers have been very selfish to this country. I think it's high time we're able to actually relook Constitution 2010, and so that we can be able to just correct some of these things, because when you go to the TSC, the CEO is not a teacher.
Yeah.
When you go to the engineers board, the CEO is not an engineer. It is basically somebody who has the qualifications to be able to guide an institution.
Now, if you want to sue this, if you want to look the 2010 Constitution, would you not need the support of a lawyer?
Of course, when you want to change the 2010 Constitution, of course, you cannot be able to wish away their job as well. But even in their job, Dismus, even lawyers take themselves to court. That's why we have a Chief Justice who also has a case in court.
Even judge goes to court.
So we have judges who also have a case in court. We have a JSC that has also been taken to court.
Yes.
So just because you are lawyers does not mean you have monopoly of knowledge in terms of law.
Yeah, now talking about Jubilee.
Yes.
Who is your presidential candidate? There have been conversations that people are saying that, Dr. Fred Matiang'i's name has been mentioned as a Jubilee candidate, but there are some members, other rank and file who are saying, wait a minute, that is Mr. Kioni's personal view.
Yeah, you have actually just asked and answered the question, Dismus, in your...
No, but you're a rank insider.
Yes, and I'm happy that you actually even know the answer. That makes me very happy, because what has been being peddled under the meetings I've seen in Kisii and other regions, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni has a constitutional right to decide who he wants to support for president. And it is his decision that he thinks Honorable Fred Matiang'i would be best fit to run for president or to serve the country as president. But that is not a party decision. That is just a file, the way you've put it, some ranks and files of the party that think so. But that there has been no party decision made by the NEC, because party decisions are made at the National Executive Committee, which I sit in. And there has never been any such conversation in terms of who is the presidential candidate for 2027. That has not been there. So the peddling of the narrative of Matiang'i is just Honorable Kioni trying to put up a candidate for himself, and we wish him all the best as a person, but not as a party.
Now, before you go back to Meshack, the issue of vetting.
Yeah.
And some people who today occupy positions in the cabinet, as cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, when you look at their CV, when you look at their performance, when you look at their capacity and competence, you actually wonder whether they went through a vetting process, and whether members of those committees have capacity and competence to actually vet nominees. Deborah, who was the cabinet secretary for health, she struggled with healthcare reforms, but there she is in the cabinet. I would even challenge you today, if you can name 10 principal secretaries from the top of your head, or if you can name 5 cabinet secretaries outside the experts from ODM from the top of your head, it would be a struggle.
Yeah.
Would international man come to the conclusion that the vetting process at the National Assembly is merely ticking a box? It's mechanical, and if the appointing authority has made a recommendation, it's done, it's a wrap, it's a deal.
Especially when it comes to the PSS, remember that the PSS it's actually a position you apply for. So this actually begins at interview stage at the PSC. So before even we would put the blame on the parliamentarians, we would first of all start at source. Where does this all begin? Because we start with the interviews, that you apply like any other normal job, and you're able to go for your interview at the PSC. So the list of the people that PSC gives us, we want to believe that it would have done the best in terms of giving us the best grain out of that. So when they then come to Parliament, it's majorly, at Parliament, I find it more of a political process more than a professional process. In Parliament, it's about now counting on whose side the parliamentarians, what is the majority? Are they on the side of the executive or not? It's more a census than necessarily a real vetting process where you want to really know this person has actually made it or not. And that's why you're able to see that immediately after the nominees go through the interviews at PSC, and then they are announced by the president, you would want to ask yourself, why do celebrations begin at that time? The celebrations do not begin after the vetting. They begin just after the presidential, because now, politically, once the president has announced that, and we know that the majority in parliament is still the Kenya Kwanza coalition. It's even now more majority, because now we even have ODM in there. So we know that, of course, going on at parliament, nothing much is going to change. But then in terms of the competencies that we are looking at, I don't know at what point we started having this change, because at some point there was a time when PSS, it was the highest ranking position of public service. And therefore it was more promotional than political. That we would be able to have people in a ministry who would be able to, like some directors.
Who have gone through the ranks.
Yeah, who have gone through the ranks. And then now at that level, it's a matter of choosing, as the president is, but you're choosing between known people who have actually gone through the ranks.
Certain job group.
Exactly. And so I think
Civil
part
service.
of the problem that now brings us into a governance crisis is we have cascaded the PS position into being wholesomely political.
Yeah.
And that's where now you'll be able to have, with no ill will, a brother of mine like Fikirini Jacobs, who would come from wherever, not been within the rank and file of the public service, but then you are supposed to come in and
go and
start-
lead directors.
and supervise directors and supervise CEOs.
Yes.
Some who have been here for the last
20 years
30 years. So you see, first of all, you have you suffer the problem first of inferiority. And first of all, will these people are they even going to listen to you with that? Because no matter how brilliant you are, some of them are persuaded to think you are young. It's like Dismus, most of even those of us who do this political commentary.
Yeah.
When we are able to sit on panels together with the likes of Dismus, the quickest way for them to do away with you is to say, I have been here for a while.
Which is actually a statement of facts. I mean, I've been here for a while.
It's like someone who wants to disrespect you and say, with all due respect, with all due respect, they are about to disrespect.
And they proceed to disrespect.
So this is basically what we were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
And I was saying, instead of wasting taxpayers' money, because this process is still consuming a lot of resources. For that parliamentary committee to sit down and do those vettings, there is a budget put to such a thing from parliament. But we both know, every Kenyan know, from number one, the president, to the last Kenyan know, the people the president has given. We don't have any record before where somebody has been denied opportunity once nominated by the president, by any parliament, even before. So why should we not cut to the chase and amend the constitution and say, once the PSC has done their bit, which is professional, and the president picks the names out of that list, that's a done deal. We don't have to start wasting other resources from parliamentary budget saying we are vetting when we know it's not going to end anywhere different.
Now, with all due respect, let's go to now the topic. Now, advice.
Yes.
When you look at the president's tour of Mount Kenya, did you pick out any specific messaging? Did he have a specific message for the community? Or would we say it was a development tour? He was opening roads, classrooms, and there were jokes all over social media that some of the projects he was opening, the master on duty would easily have done that job very well.
I think when I look at the president's tour, in terms of messaging, as you put it, I think the president was trying to say, and speaking more even to the country than to Mount Kenya, that it's not all lost as it's being reported. I think that was his biggest message to the region. And it was a visit and it was a tour that was infused in both the politics and the development. Because I was able to see the president really be able to do a lot of what I would call development. I saw there's some 5 billion somewhere, I saw some 3 billion somewhere. So the building of about 60 classrooms and all that. And of course, opening of a few things here and there. So the president was really trying to deal with the perception that had been created that because the deputy president was kicked out, therefore that means Mount Kenya is not in government. So I think the president was just reaffirming to the region that this region is just in government, in fact, more than other regions. In fact, to those of us who don't come from Mount Kenya, that visit proved to us that this region is more in government than the rest of us, because I was able to see the president's trip of Western Kenya. When I compare it with the mountain region, the things and the goodies that were being given, I cannot be able to say in the Western even got to half or quarter, because most of our things were the bonuses of 150 million. But here, one place is a declaration of 5 billion. So you are able to see that the president was actually reassuring that this region is squarely in government. And I think that message really, really came out well. And apart from that, that development of sort, also the politics was screaming loud. And the president needed the perception. Because in a region where the president had been perceived that he's very unpopular, I think give it to him that the crowd pulling that they did through the region was very good perception for the campaigns of the president. Just to show that the narrative might be this, but there is a whole other narrative outside there. Of course, there will be the question of the people who are mobilized and all that. But in terms of perception, because again, politics is a game of mobilization. All of us mobilize, even Kioni with his meeting in Kisii, mobilized those people who attended there. So you cannot be able to victimize a politician.
But is mobilization bad, whether or not the people are paid?
It is not bad. It is part and parcel of the political. In fact, the president himself owned up when he was speaking to the media houses, the vernacular media houses in Sagana, that of course, in politics, there will always be political mobilization. So who mobilizes better than the other is the whole game plan.
When you talk about political mobilization,
yes,
what is actually political mobilization in Kenya?
Political mobilization in Kenya is understood very differently by very different people.
Yeah, I want to get your perspective.
For instance, what I call political mobilization in Kenya is, number one, when a politician is going somewhere, the first thing is that he has to be sure that there is an audience that he'll address.
Absolutely.
So it is either the audience is organic because of belief, or the audience is created so that then it's converted to belief.
Inorganic.
So whichever way, at the end of the process, there is belief.
There will be an audience.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, there's a belief. It's either they believe, then they come, or they are mobilized to come, then they believe. So at the end of the day, belief is what matters. That's what I call political mobilization. So, and it's not wrong, whichever way, because all of us have been, when we were doing the Azimio campaigns, and we were organizing our different groupings, and I was chairing then the youth campaign in Azimio, we were politically mobilizing. When we went to Nyeri, when we went to Muranga, and there are places that we needed more mobilization than others. For instance, in the Azimio campaign, Dismus, I'll confirm with you that when we went to Muranga, we did more work than when we went to Nyanza. Yeah,
so political mobilization here means...
The congregants were converted. But this side, we needed more conversion.
So the cost of mobilization then in Nyanza was fairly low. So mobilization here means allowances.
The cost you are the one who was saying.
Yeah, so here you mean about allowances, sitting allowances, heckling allowances, Meshack.
Yeah, it might not really be allowance as such. It is enablers of how do people get to the venue where they should be.
It is facilitation.
Yeah, how do we get people to the venue where the boss needs to address them? So you look at the challenges people have there. Do they have challenge of transport? Yeah. You facilitate the transport. So that is mobilization.
So if they have anger challenges,
you facilitate how they can get something in their stomach.
How long the meeting will be, because this must, even for normal meetings, even for parastatals, even for corporate organizations, when they're having meetings that take very long, they provide lunch. So I don't know why the name changes when it's about the politics. Because we have seen every other person, even here Dismus, because of the weather, there has been some tea here.
So you've been mobilized.
So this is part of mobilization.
Sharon has mobilized.
Sharon has mobilized to stay on fireside until its end.
So Meshack, talking about mobilization, a number of prominent Kenya Kwanza leaders, including the majority leader Kimani Ichung'wah, one would describe that they faced a hostile crowd. Yeah. And I know, the two of you have indicated that you're experts in mobilization. During that mobilization, political competition can actually mobilize people. They say on the site of Meshack, pull this banner, or this billboard, or this placard.
Yeah.
So Would you say the heckling of a number of Kenya Kwanza leaders was organic or inorganic?
This first Dismus, number one, personally, I think the tour of President William Ruto in Mount Kenya has gone beyond my expectation. Because the reason why I would say beyond my expectation is because Mount Kenya are trying to be in the place where we have been. My community has been there.
Which community is this?
The Luo Nation has been exactly where Mount Kenya are trying to be. And I'm not sure whether the shoe is too big. They will not be able to fit because any other time before this time, the president would be difficult. It would be difficult for the president to plan the tour of Luo Nation. But William Ruto did, even immediately after the election of 2022. You remember when he went to Homa Bay. So where I sat, yes, I knew there is going to be some ruffle of feathers here and there politically, but he's still going to go there and he's still going to talk to those people. Because if he came to Homa Bay, you know, it is only in the Luo Nation where some times back we refused IEBC does not conduct election in Nyanza and didn't, including policemen and everybody. So Mount Kenya, I'm not sure whether you will fit the shoe, but the shoe is too big. If you want to go there, some of us can do a lot of trainings.
So you're making yourself available for benchmarking?
Yes, you can mobilize me to have this training. But second, the heckling, I think that was now local politics playing out. When you come to Kiambu, other than the governor of Kiambu, the sitting governor of Kiambu, Kimani Ichung'wah ranks higher because of the office he holds in the National Assembly and the proximity or closeness to the president and all such kind of things. But then he has also taken the left wing, according to Mount Kenya. And now there are rightists in Mount Kenya and the leftists. So when that politics plays, I didn't see directly people who are facing President William Ruto and telling William Ruto, we don't like you, we don't want you, we don't. That was not possible. Or not, it was possible, but it wasn't there. Unlike maybe if it was the time when it was the time of my people in the Luo Nation, William Ruto would be told himself, the local politics would not play much when he is there. It would be him, and he is told, in this region, we don't want this. But Mount Kenya are not playing that. So it was the leftists in Mount Kenya and the rightists in Mount Kenya, and you could see how the president was easy. Even on top of the vehicle, he can see the heckling is going on, but he knows these are directed to Kimani, and probably the group have been mobilized by the leftists here, and on the other side, it could go the opposite way, and so it is who is powerful around what area. So that is what basically I saw happening in Mount Kenya. But what we expected, because when we were here, for example, during the Gabon game with Kenya, Ruto must go and chanting. And then so it was expected. Sometimes in the pubs, we hear things like that. So it was expected that the home of Ruto must go is Mount Kenya. So we are going to see a lot of that. And unfortunately, we didn't see anything like that.
Unfortunately,
we didn't see anything like that.
Why was it unfortunate?
Because okay, the Nairobi one was proven that it was not any one of us. You know, some of them came and got into the crowd of Kenya versus Gabon, and there was a bit of shouting. Then when it was now time to prove who these people were, it was the game of Gor Mahia versus AFC. There wasn't Ruto must go there. That means Luyas and Luos were not in that bandwagon.
Okay.
So we left it to the Mount Kenya. But unfortunately now when they were in Mount Kenya, we expected to hear a lot of, and it was not there. So it means the Gabon people were the ones saying Ruto must go.
So Meshack, are you suggesting that all supporters for Gor Mahia and FC Leopards are from two communities?
Most of them.
Oh,
not
most
all.
of them, okay.
Yes, yeah.
what you are just falling short of saying is there is a Mount Kenya online community that was able to really shape a perception that almost the whole of the country bought. That really it's a very tough ground for the president in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
But then the online warriors and do not necessarily have the ground reality. Because what I was able to see on the ground is actually a Mount Kenya that, in my view, is politically very alive to the realities of what a head of state visit really means. And that's why they were able to reduce their own local politics to play it out, but not to affect the visit of the head of state. And I think that is something that also maybe other communities need to learn. That a time comes when you really have to understand that it's not about the politics all the time. A visit of the head of state means quite a lot. That is actually a whole arm of government in your region.
What does the visit mean?
It means this Dismus. The head of state is not any other ordinary man. He's not just like a visit from Meshack or Dismus going to Nyeri. This is the person who actually controls the executive of the country. This is the person who actually has the pulse of the country. This is the person who is also the symbol of national unity. So when this person is able to come to your region, it is your time as a people to make your needs known, to make your demands known to his face, not the time for you to actually anchor the politics more. Whether you will be able to reject him at the ballot or not is neither here nor there. When you have him here, it is your time for you to say, you know what, this is what we need, and this is what we need, and this is what we need. And now I was able to see, like for instance, you can be able to see they have allocation for Mau Mau roads, which will now be completed. They have now better bonuses for their coffee and tea. They now have the build-up of all the classrooms, because as a region, they were able to put the politics aside when it comes to the visit of the head of state and put their priorities ahead of that. And I think for me that was quite good.
So advice, we need your advice.
Yes.
We've got elected members of the county assembly.
Yeah.
Members of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And Senate.
Yes.
Part of their responsibility is to pass a budget.
Yes.
For all these Mundalo you are talking about.
Yes.
If you're a member of the National Assembly, you sit, the proposals come from the National Treasury,
Yes.
You debate and you vote for them, and all resources are allocated countrywide. Why do you need the president to come to see the Mundalo?
Because Dismus, there is politics as it is and politics as it ought to be. What you're talking about is politics as it ought to be. Unfortunately, that's not politics as it is. The reality of this country is that since independence in 1963, we have had regions in this country that has been entirely disadvantaged. Yet, the process as it is actually is that you go to the National Assembly and all that. Remember, in the National Assembly, in the passing of the budget, it is again a question of political numbers. Yeah? So it is not just about members of parliament sit, and because there are 200 and something, everyone comes up with a list of what their constituency needs, and that is put in the budget and that goes. That is not the truth. So that's why you're able to find a member of parliament like Caleb Amisi from Saboti, who constantly keeps saying that his constituency has never seen a kilometer of road since independence. That is the reality of the country as it is. So the truth is, most of the development of this country has gone more to the directions where the president has come from. That is the truth. And now because of that, all of us have to learn from that and know that we must be able to actually voice out what we need to be done. Despite the fact that we have members of parliament and we have whoever, the reality is that we have to constantly repeat it, because our politics as it is that it's not necessarily a respecter of the institutions and the way we really, things really ought to have been done. Because if it were like that, Dismus, then even the president would need to go nowhere. And no region would even need, we would not be clamoring and everyone wanting to have a piece of the presidency. Because then, remember, even devolution would not be able to sort out this problem. Because at some point, it was thought that devolution will sort out part of this problem. Because then people will go back to their... At some point, we thought people will be grappling more towards who is their governor than who is the president. But we can be able to see that more than 10 years after devolution, we are still more interested in the presidency. That simply means that is where the actual cake is being cut from. So, despite the fact that we would want to envision a country where things happen in Parliament and every member of Parliament can be able to really table and all that. As we are today, the reality is that most of the things are actually at the presidency level, they are at the executive level, and so all of us must make our demands known. Unfortunately, again, where I do not sometimes also blame the Mount Kenya region and the Rift Valley per se, because President Ruto has actually been one of the leading lights in terms of regionalizing the presidency. We've seen cabinet meetings being held in Kakamega. We've seen cabinet meetings being held in different parts of the country. We've seen the president actually organize regional visits. That has been an opportunity for the leaders of those regions to actually cascade downwards and present to the president what would be their issues at that place. But some of the leaders have actually disappointed because partly my leaders from the Western Kenya, part of the things they gave the president to launch was a transformer. Now, do I blame the president for that or do I blame my leaders for that? Because they sat down a whole night with the president and they're able to come up with what they think are the priority areas that we need as a region. So if both of us are going to meet the president at Dismus, both me and Meshack, and when we get to the president, I ask for 5,000 shillings to buy airtime, and Dismus asks to be the CEO of Ketraco, I can't come out of that meeting hating.
but you know, talking about the transformer,
yeah,
the conversation may appear pedestrian, but there are many places in Kenya, even as we speak,
yeah,
there is no power connection. So for them, when they see a transformer, it is a eureka moment. They want to say,
yeah,
this is it. Because you speak about equity and equality.
True.
There are many parts in Kenya where having power is a basic standard.
It's normal.
Yeah.
It's a normal occurrence.
Yeah.
But there are many places in Kenya whereby the voters, when they see a bulb,
yeah,
it's been switched on, even a number of them actually may think that this is witchcraft. They want to run.
that is true.
This is what I want to say. I think Advice has put it correctly, but I would want to extend and say the reason why in a country like ours, the visit of the president is still very important. Today, I think my party leader, Raila Odinga, spoke about, is it not today, just yesterday in Mombasa, he spoke about why don't we, as a country, give county governments up to 450 billion. Instead, right now, we are giving them around 380 or 385 billion. Meaning, out of a 4 trillion budget, look at the amount that is still in the hands of national government. So even though the governors will divide the 450 billion, even if they were to get 450 billion, still doesn't stop the presidential visit being a very important, because he's still holding so much on this other side. Number two, the functions have also been given to the county government by the law. There are also functions that remains in the national government by law. So those functions are still in the hands of the president squarely, including some roads which are under Kenha and all that. Yeah. So when the president visits my village and sees that road the way it looks like, and for example, the other time we were having a conversation like this in another media house with CS Mbadi, and he tells us this bridge in Tana River has been a menace. Children have been eaten by crocodile for many years, and it only felt so important to him when he visited and saw something like that. And then he said, we will put everything else aside. That bridge needed 150 million. We will put every other thing aside and take this as an emergency. And that bridge is now being built. Currently, the contractors are on site doing that bridge. Sometimes it happens like that again with the president. Maybe it is said because you are a member of parliament, speaks in parliament, but the president does not listen to every other thing that is said in parliament. So your member will say it, but it will remain there. But again, remember, the budget originates from the executive. It comes to the treasury, it goes to the parliamentarians to now do their bit. So if it did not originate, I don't know whether your member of parliament can fix it there at that particular time. It begins from source, and the source here is executive. So Ministry of Road have got a budget of 200 billion countrywide. the overall budget. And then you realize this is again tied to being in position of power. A place like Ahero, let me use my region, Ahero Nyando, people have been having this menace of water throughout.
Floods.
Do you think nobody else in the executive knows that floods are usually killing those people? They know. But being out there, it is not a priority. Yeah? So when the president is able to visit and you are able to talk about it, even though you realize that Korusoin Dam has been in every budget for the past 5-7 years. Every budget, it is there on paper, but it requires more than being on paper to what we call political goodwill. And that political goodwill is the visit.
Actually, you know, talking about the visits,
Yeah.
I understand we are going to have our Madaraka Day celebrations in Homa Bay.
Homa Bay.
So I was in a show with Honorable Kaluma and indicated for the first time his constituency.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood,
Yes.
they're going to have tarmac.
Yes.
130 kilometers.
Yes.
Right now there is street lighting being fixed. And there's a lot of activity in the area. But is that a sustainable way of developing the nation? What if the president doesn't want to come to your region?
Then you get another one who wants to come to your region. That's why my community decided, if you cannot give our Raila Amolo Odinga, we will steal any president you elect. And that one we will not lie. Even if you say Ruto must go today and tomorrow he is gone, the one you will elect, we will steal. So we will still come.
So you've been stealing presidents from the time of President Moi.
Whatever president going forward, we will keep stealing. I will not lie.
So that is a community declaration.
Take the election, we take the president.
It's a community declaration.
It is a declaration. Yeah, even if you say Ruto go today, whoever even Rigiji, if you bring tomorrow, we will steal. He will come. So that's the declaration.
I think Meshack has just endorsed himself as the official spokesperson.
So should he go pick his appointment letter?
No, you know, spokespersons don't pick letters.
Oh, okay.
You just declare and become.
We emerge.
You emerge. So Meshack, you have emerged as the spokesman.
Yes.
Meshack has officially emerged as but be that as it may, it is very important for us to actually. There has been an attempt in the country to demean the visits of the president.
Yeah.
And yet most of the
Attempt by who?
An attempt by the media, an attempt by, I think largely the media, and also just political spinners to make it look as though the president moving in different parts of the country looks as though he is actually not working. Most of the problem that we actually have in this country, like the bridge you just talked about, we need leaders to actually get into physical touch with the realities of the country. When leaders just sit in Nairobi, sometimes they lead a country that is in their heads, not the country in its reality. And that's why look at the variation between cabinet secretaries today and ministers as they were. In the 2010 constitution, we tried to change that and say cabinet secretaries need to be professionals and all that. Whereas I agree with that bit of professionalism. But look at what the effect has been actually on the ground. Because when cabinet secretaries, then called ministers, were parliamentarians, I want to dare say I would be able to see more. Because they were politicians who were out there every other time. Today, Dismus, you have a cabinet secretary who is operating between Karen, Lavington, his office in Upper Hill, lunch at Radisson Blue, back to Karen. And that is his modus operandi for the whole year. And this minister is actually a minister for the entire country. There is one of the very senior people that I would not want to mention his name, and went to them for some function in Western Kenya, for a funeral actually. And this person told me that was the first time that he was setting foot in that region. Yet the person has been holding positions that are national for quite some time.
The cabinet secretary.
Yeah. So you look at it and then you wonder what type of country would we be when all leaders are just supposed to exist within Nairobi? Even for the media itself, for the report to be authentic, they have reporters across the country. They do not spread rumors. You don't sit here, this man, and just say that we've heard that the president visited Nyeri. There must be a reporter there so that the report is authentic. So when the president actually visits these areas, for me, I feel like it is quite it's quite a good thing for the country, because then at the highest level of governance, that person gets in direct contact and gets to experience the realities of the ground. When they leave for their caravan in the morning, when the roads are bad and the president has to leave Nyeri to go to Tharaka, he will be able to experience the roads himself. He will not just hear about them on a budget appropriation or from a member of parliament speaking somewhere. He'll actually experience them himself.
I see that, does he actually use the road or he uses choppers?
He uses the road. You cannot be able to campaign on chopper throughout.
Okay.
The chopper would only take you, for instance, on the long range, if you're coming from here to Homa Bay. But between inside Homa Bay, you can't be taking a chopper ride from one market to the other.
Yeah.
So at some point, there is the real use of actually the road.
Advice, the other aspect many people may not have understood is that the buck stops with the president. If that Korusoin Dam in Ahero is not done, the people of Ahero will put the president to account more than they can put their member of parliament to account. Because member of parliament might be in the opposition party, and the taxes are going to the executive, and the taxes are supposed to be the one doing those Koruso in dam. Number two, this is also the way the president will ensure that the money that was actually put in that budget for that dam has been done because he's coming to launch it or see it finished. Otherwise, how would the president know that the money just went somewhere, that dam was not done, and maybe some photos were taken of another dam elsewhere?
But you have governance institution, you have the Auditor General, you've got the control of budgets, you've got the elected leaders.
You do, but just where we get the president is the same corner where we get the Auditor Generals of this country and others. So where we get members of parliament.
You remember, guilt was also a very good formula of oversight.
Yeah.
Guilt is a good formula because now, the reason why today it is so easy to actually oversight the president by anybody is because even a normal person with a smartphone will be able to show you that this is the president in Homa Bay on this date promising launching this. Yeah. And then the president is visiting Homa Bay next week. We want to see what exactly will he say about this. So it is very easy. You're able to see during the media interview he was having with the local media.
Yes.
They were able to actually hold him down to account in terms of the reality of the promises and saying, you said this and you said this at this place. And in 6 months, this was supposed to be done. Yeah. How come it is not done? So it makes it, when it's visual, it makes it more practical and more real. Yeah. It does not just stop at gazette notices and some memorandum that have been done somewhere that a common mwananchi cannot actually follow paper trail. When things are being done in State House and there is some budget appropriations and whatever, I dare you that not more than 1% of this country have ever actually seen that paper called a budget appropriation. They have actually never seen it, and those who have seen it, again, 99% of those who have seen it don't understand it.
Well, that may be the case. Yeah. Where is the place for systems or infrastructure which deliver? Because the two of you, what you are describing here is that you've got a budget and appropriations committee at the National Assembly, which is mechanical and ceremonial. There is the president who has, as the West Africans say, is got the yam and the knife.
No, the system is still there, Dismus. And this is where Parliament comes in, because Parliament, according to me, has always been the weakest link between the people and what is supposed to happen. If the president came like he came to Homa Bay immediately after his election and talked about the affordable housing in Homa Bay, right now, he is going back to Homa Bay, and part of the things he would want to go and see is how far the affordable housing in Homa Bay has reached. And for this to have reached here, the system must have been working.
Exactly.
And that system is supported largely by oversight team. If the affordable housing in Homa Bay was done in partnership with the county government of Homa Bay, are the MCAs doing their work of oversight to the governor to ensure that the part that is supposed to be done by the county government is actually done the right way? And the ones that are done by national government, that is why Kaluma is Member of Parliament for Homa Bay Town, to ensure that he oversights the national government while MCAs are oversighting Wanga, and Wanga and William Ruto are combining forces to do affordable housing in Homa Bay Town. So the system is still there, but the weakest link has always been the MCAs, the members of parliament, because politics does too much in watering down everything that is supposed to be achieved.
Actually, Meshack, if I can just add on to that, Dismus. The system, we are not wishing away the system, but the system has always been somewhere hidden because nobody knows what they are supposed to be doing. Because when you are supposed to be building a road in Homa Bay, but the people of Homa Bay are even not aware that the road is supposed to be built. So this person who is supposed to build the road takes their sweet time. But now, with the political realization that the president is creating, it puts pressure, because now, as a person, as the CEO of Kera or Kura, seated in your office, you know very well that now it's not just about this being in the budget and somewhere in my shelf. Actually, the people are aware that the road is supposed to be there. And apart from the people being aware, the head of state himself will go back there, because remember, the head of state is a politician. And he must be able to go back there to launch that road, and he must be able to go back there to prove to the people that his promises have actually come to pass. So you seated in your corner office as an executive director is then able to be under pressure, because you have to deliver both for the people and for your boss. Because most of the time, we have had a situation where the boss has given you what to do, but you're seated in your corner office, and most of the public servants, they know that, in fact, they always say, you people will come and go. Yeah, they know the politicians will come, and then they will go, and others will be able to come. So they do not take it with sometimes the seriousness and the pace that it needs to be taken with. So the president just going outside there and ensuring that the people are aware of every plan that there is in government puts pressure on the systems to actually deliver for the people. So it actually quickens the process. It does not dismantle the system, but it quickens the process of implementation.
Now, talking about systems and delivery, when Mr. Rigathi Gachagua was impeached as deputy president, he said that he was going to open a can of worms, and he's been making revelations. He says those are revelations. And a few days ago, we also saw the former Attorney General and Minister for Public Service, Mr. J.B. Muturi, also coming up with a number of revelations. So he has made allegations that he has not offered evidence yet. Now, Meshack,
yes,
are you surprised at what Mr. Rigathi Gachagua and J.B. Muturi have been saying about the presidency and the president?
No, I'm not surprised. I actually still expect them to say more, including what happened in the election of 2022. So I want them to continue speaking. I expect them to speak. But
so these your expectations are in your capacity as the spokesman?
Wait. Let me tell you, Mokua. I don't want to water down what the former Attorney General says, because we both know if he talks about abduction, no one of us would want abduction. Even my party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, I remember in Homa Bay with Ruto, told Ruto standing next to him that abduction is a no thing. So it is not a new thing. It is not just that is where the line is drawn between personalities like Muturi and Raila Odinga. Yesterday, Raila was speaking in Mombasa and saying, you don't need to do the markets. This is a county government function. So please give the county governments a lot of money to do their functions. Don't do it from national government for whatever reason. That is a man who is friends with the president and tells the president the right thing. Now Muturi and Rigiji are on the other WhatsApp group, where all the wrong things can happen as long as it does not touch on them personally in their ambitions and the offices they hold. They can keep quiet and emerge 3 years later to tell us how bad things were. How does that help a country like ours? It would be possible if we were talking about people who have got integrity, and so perhaps right now, Rigiji and Attorney General were telling us this, and they start with a question. Do you people know the reason why I resigned? Now let me tell you. This is why I resigned. This happened, this was happening, I did this, I tried to do this, I tried to do that. I was blocked here, I was blocked here. So we can all be in awe and surprised. Really, this is why, okay, no wonder. We were wondering, you see how Githu Muigai resigned? Nobody has known until today exactly why Githu resigned, but we all know at least he resigned. So if he was to come to an interview today on New Day TV and tell the country, do you people know why I resigned? The government was doing 1, 2, 3 things that were not according to the law and were morally wrong, and I tried to do 1, 2, 3 and I was stopped, and I did say I cannot go on with this anymore. We will take that man serious, and we will say whatever you tell us from here going forward, we will listen to you. Mm-hmm. But how do I listen to JB Muturi, who the people who was abducted were many, but he only sneaked to State House according to his statement about his own son, and he never spoke about any other man's son until he was ready to go for gubernatorial seat of Embu. That is when he now feels like, I need this sacking so I can organize homecoming. That is not a man I want to trust. And that is what Rigiji is as well. So yes, they are saying the things they are saying, but it's like the devil himself would be coming to preach to me that he wants us to go to heaven. Will I trust that? Does he have any heaven?
Well, the devil knows a lot about hell, so he wants you. He doesn't want you to experience hell.
If he talks about hell, I know that is his side of things. But if he come to talk to me about heaven,
but heaven is the contrast of hell. So the moment you know one, you know the other.
Yes.
Advice.
You know, who are in the event of divorce, rarely do you expect people to say good things about each other after divorce. So, and this is the perfect case of both Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and the former Attorney General. Because they, no matter what they say, they have a very big undoing in context. Context does not favor them. Because when you look at the context of the former Deputy President, this is a man who in the last minute spent, I think, slightly over an hour on national television begging for the job he had, begging the president and the parliamentarians not to impeach him, meaning he loved where he was. Now, in the event that now you have been gotten out and you have a lot of bad things to say about that place, we then wonder, why were you begging to be in? And the same context then goes with the former Attorney General and Minister of Public Service, that up to the last minute, even in the unfortunate instance of what you would call the abduction of your son, you still were able to remain in.
Yeah.
Even when that had happened and you had actually come on camera and spoken about it, and the government was being reorganized, you still were able to be given a piece of that government, and you are still very willing to take it.
Without a word.
To the last minute, you have not come out and said, no, I do not need it anymore. You have sat until the last minute when it is again the government itself that has felt the need to do away with you. That is when you have a lot to tell us. So the issue of context actually does a lot of injustice to the message that the two of them have. The ratio of believability then goes very low. Because then when I listened to JB Muturi and the things, and he was speaking with a lot of authority and speaking like he really wants to bring out something very, very huge, and speaking very tough words about the president and who he is and his personality and all that. Mokua, if that came from Deborah Mlongo, despite the fact that I would still not believe it 100%, maybe I would give it a 30. Because maybe then I would have the imagination that this is a new person in public service. Most of us as Kenyans have just known Deborah when she's been appointed as a minister, and therefore would have a perception that she even didn't know President William Ruto, and these are realizations that she has just done. But when a man who has known the other for 20 years comes out and now wants to make us discover that he has just discovered his personality, it doesn't make sense. When JB Muturi wants to tell us about the personality of President William Ruto and how weird it is, and yet he's been speaker for 10 years, while President Ruto was deputy president for 10 years. And away from that, they have served in the same parliament. How is he discovering his personality just now? If President Ruto's personality is as JB Muturi puts it, then I do not expect that JB Muturi was in any way going to, in fact, work with President Ruto, even in the campaign to make President Ruto president of this country. But he was able to fold his own ambitions running for president, and he told this country that no, whereas I think I can be president, this is a better man. It is him who told us. And we had to believe him because, remember, he had known and interacted with President Ruto for over 20 years. He can't discover the president's personality just now.
Mundalo, what that means is if he is wrong about how he judged the personality of William Ruto after observing him for 20 years, then why should we believe this? Because this is not too long. If the longer one he misjudged, then why should we believe this? Maybe he could as well misjudge this.
Maybe has experienced the Damascus moment.
But he also does not give us enough evidence in the previous offices he has held, both as a member of parliament, speaker, that can tell that this man is usually like this. You see why there are politicians who can say something today. For example, just as an example, you saw Raphael Tuju speak about the Supreme Court judges, and everybody was like, we want to get to know it.
Exactly.
But there are other people who talk about Supreme Court judges and nobody cares. People just say, it's normal. Those are now usual, normal, so-and-so. There are people who are known. So JB has also not given us any previous record that he should be believed when he speaks. He does because as a Speaker of the National Assembly for 10 years, we don't even have anything we can say this he brought to make Parliament function even better than before. So why should we just take his word when he has been fired? And a lot of corruption in it, Parliamentary. Before even Junet talk about it, there was a lot of issues around this, and I remember some of the media houses had done a lot of investigative journalism around the project, and just when they started airing this, the parliamentarians were moved very quickly into that building. I think you can remember. So all along, it was kept again. It is like fire that started and it was kept off. But now, it is coming back, and probably we will hear more. And
Mokua, you also look at the type of Meshack, you look at the type of coincidence, because what a coincidence that the time when the former Attorney General discovers that he has a lot of things to tell us is also the time when he has lost his job.
Yes.
The coincidence is mind-boggling, because you can't suddenly have a lot to say just after you actually lose your job. And the surprises about JB Muturi, you might also want to think they are consistent. JB Muturi was actually made speaker by President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013. And I would argue that the political value of JB Muturi at the time, even for the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, I wouldn't give it a high. I don't know what you would, because I don't see it as the kind of political support that warrants you a position of speaker, for instance.
It was friendship.
Now, if that kind of support made him, without that immense support, President Uhuru still made him speaker for 10 years. And even as I can assure you, Mokua seated at Jubilee when our offices were in Pangani, on that afternoon when JB Muturi joined Kenya Kwanza, we were very shocked, because not in our weirdest imaginations would we imagine that JB Muturi, after being of service and after being given the opportunity by President Uhuru Kenyatta to the last minute, 10 years down the line, he would be able to pull such a surprise and just leave him when it was convenient for his politics. But I think now I know better, because now you see he's done the same thing with President Ruto, that towards the end, again, I cannot be able to equate the political support of JB Muturi to the candidature and the presidency of President William Ruto, I cannot be able to give it a significant figure in terms of the political support that he actually added to the basket. But still, he was made Attorney General and later Minister. But again, when it was just about to get to a point when he needs to be governor of Embu, when it served his personal interest the most, he again just, like before, did the same thing. So maybe this is just his political script that we need to really just understand it as such.
Now, interesting feedback from a lady called Isabel, saying that the two of you are extremely dishonest. You know the truth, but you are dancing around issues. So could you give us the truth?
Like maybe she would, because she's the one who knows which truth we have missed, she would have been better off to clarify. Which truth exactly is she talking about?
I think the only truth I know is that truth that has also been echoed by even those who are on the side I think she is. You remember Gathoni told us and told the country in one of the morning shows that Rigathi was incompetent.
Yeah.
Rigathi was deeply tribal and all that. But asked, why did you defend him? He comes from the mountain. He's a son of the mountain. Those are the only truths I know
that
are existing out here. So saying anything else, anything different, because right now, for example, the man tells us there is a container in Karen stuck with money, 40 by 80, you remember?
Yes.
So the question is, was that container there when he lived there, or the container was just taken there?
And what did he do with it when he was there?
But when he lived there, the message he told Kenyans, including the feedback we are getting, the lady giving us feedback, the message was they inherited a dilapidated economy, coffers that has 0 shillings. So we can assume that that was true. So if that was true, then money has come to this country under the leadership of William Ruto.
Yes.
A lot of money has come. Because if it was 0 shillings in the coffers, and now there is money out here with containers, one in State House and another one, then money has come. That is the pure truth.
Which is a good thing.
If money was there before then, it is Rigathi who lied that they inherited economy with 0 shillings.
Yes.
So they can choose one side. Did they lie or money has actually come?
well, you may not be lawyers, but we've seen some correspondence which has got several stamps.
Yeah.
Indicated confidential or classified and attributed to J.B. Muturi.
Yeah.
Would one say that he may be in breach of the Official Secrets Act?
Whereas I think, remember JB is, by stature and standing, I think he's a senior counsel.
Yeah.
He's not a senior counsel, but he's a senior lawyer.
He's a senior lawyer. So I don't want to imagine that he would put himself in such kind of direct line of fire. And if he would, then it's purely for politics. Because what I judge from all this that is happening is purely political expediency that we've seen with our politics all through. I don't want to even judge JB more as a minister now or as an attorney general or as a lawyer, but just as a politician. To me, this is just a person who is reading the mood and, like every other politician, just trying to take wind of the mood as it is and just be able to exploit a circumstance to favor himself. Because most of the things that I've seen that confidential, and even the things he's actually saying, even before you go to the breach of the Secrets Act, Mokua, there's also just breach of common sense. You know, there's a level of expectation we have as a people on what you should be when you occupy certain levels of government. We do not expect that you can be able to really come out and just be able to be telling us about everything that happened anywhere. And that is just for him alone, even for the former deputy president.
So that's what you're referring to as a breach of common sense?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to as just a breach of common sense. Before we even go to the legalese of it, there's just the breach of common sense. We have things that we have a conversation about at levels of government that it is just common sense that you must be able to retain it. Even me, Mokua, when I come to you after this show and share with you a bit of my marital challenges, and tell you, and you offer one or two advice, and then it helps me. You don't hold the next podcast talk about how you salvaged, how you salvaged my money. It's just a breach of common sense.
But Mokua, without being seen like, oh, we are supporting William Ruto already. None of us here, I think me and Mundalo, were campaigning for Raila Odinga. We didn't campaign for William Ruto.
Yeah.
So,
but we have stolen him.
That one we will do.
As a community.
That one we will do. That is a different debate. But what I want to say is this. We both know, and it is on records even for media houses, that there were more than 40 MPs gathering in Meru, and they addressed the press there. And they declared that from that day, Kindiki is their spokesperson of the mountain. This thing originated within the mountain. Yeah. So trying to move it by force to be seen like it is William Ruto who did this, if he did, then it was largely enabled by the mountains themselves.
And it's part of political
But
development.
we also don't have evidence whether he actually did. The only evidence we have is from the day more than 40 MPs lined up, addressed the nation, and said, we have declared as the leaders given power by the people living around the mountain, that since today, Kindiki is going to be our main person, the spokesperson. So that is, to me, what should be discussed. How we make William Ruto to be the person who did all this. Because now the JBs and the Rigijis are combining forces to make it look like the president orchestrated the move on Rigiji, the move on former Attorney General. But no one also is saying whether the president actually orchestrated how to bring Kavogos, how to bring Mutai Kagwes, and all that. So politics is politics. And one thing we must also accept, the question that is being asked all over media houses every morning or evening when this issue of president's tour is done, whether it is political or development. All presidential visit is political, including the ones outside this country, are still political. So that should not be a question. The only thing is that political tour able to give us economic or development on the other side of things? That's the only question. So we cannot say, president, even if president comes to your church, it is still political. It cannot be said, oh, president came today, because he will not be the one to give the sermon. He will only talk about development and other things. So let's not even ask that.
So, Meshack, there's a member of the audience, Oscar Uching, asking whether you're interested in political seats 2027.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead and make the declaration.
I will, but now just the declaration is that I am interested.
For now, he's still having a spokesperson.
No, that is declaration enough. I am interested. So if he wants me to do the other bit, he can as well ask that. But for now, he has asked, am I interested?
And
yes, I am interested.
Now, advice you spoke about Mount Kenya into detail, the president's visit, and Meshack has spoken about it.
Yeah.
Are there lessons that we can pick from this trip? What are the key perspectives? What jumps out of the president's visit in Mount Kenya?
I think the first thing, and I had spoken about it earlier, is that the political maturity of the people of Mount Kenya is something to be emulated by other regions of the country, whereby they were not, despite the tension between the impeachment of Rigathi and all that, and the salvos by JB Muturi, the people there were focused enough to allow themselves tap from the executive that is now here with them. They reduced their politics to themselves and not to the demeaning of the stature of the president and the symbol of national unity as the office of the president is. So I think for me, that would be one of the lessons that the rest of the country really has to pick. We also have to pick the reality that as a region, Mount Kenya actually is very good at putting their issues on the table and being able to say, this is exactly what we want. I saw that from the onset, even before the tour started or during the media interview that the president actually gave in Sagana. And you were able to see the journalists from the region. They were so geared towards what were the promises, what had stalled. They were able to take the president head on in terms of there is this that you said and it has not happened yet. But most of us on the other sides, we emphasize more on the politics than the development of the region. So that is also a lesson that is important for us to actually pick, that it's very, very important that despite our political environment, we have to be in cognizant of the reality of our issues, that every time we have the leaders come to us, let us put the politics aside first and ensure they serve us. And it's not just about the president, even for members of parliament, even for an MCA, even for cabinet secretaries, that when the cabinet secretary of health has visited a region, it is not the opportunity for you to show them how politically disinterested you are. But it's first the opportunity because, again, they are there earning your taxes. They are there operating on taxpayers' money. Even they are coming to where you are. It's not on their own money. It is by your money. So you must be able to put your needs forward first. So start by asking, first of all, as a Minister of Health and you're here, these are our issues. What have you done about these? And this is what we expect. Our hospitals here, like there's a hospital in Bungoma, and I've come to realize there are many others, where a hospital, one bed takes care of 4 people in a hospital. Like admission is done on one bed, 4 patients. That is an issue to speak about when you see the Minister of Health there. It is not time for you to be able to show them how politically disinterested you are. When the Minister of Environment or the Minister of Justice is there, that is the time to, and I think that came out very heavily during the president's tour of the mountain region. I was able to actually see them prioritize their issues. I think that is one of the biggest lessons that we can draw from them.
Meshack?
Thank you. I think there is also one thing that comes out with the people around the mountain. They have 2 classes of people, which perhaps maybe a place like my region doesn't have. They have people who can talk, can do politics, whichever way. But then there are people who are they are like deep waters. You won't hear them, you won't hear any of their sound. We don't even have their sound bites anywhere. But they're actually moving things. And I think this has made William Ruto succeed in his tour in the mountain. There are those people who were there to ensure that this visit is going to happen and this is how it is going to run. If I look, for example, back in my community, I don't see much of those people who are, everybody is high-flying politically. Like everybody has their voice heard.
Everybody must be heard and seen.
Everybody must be heard and seen. But we don't have such people. For example, even if you don't go to the mountain, for example, I have one man I usually tell people, Waziri Chirchir. We don't even have his soundbite in any media house. Or even if you go to media houses and ask, they will have to scratch deep to get any soundbite of Chirchir, yeah? Is that true?
Even his image, they just have one.
But he is one man who moves things. Like, whatever he is interested to do will happen. Yeah.
But flying below the radar.
Yes. Yeah. Now those are the kind of men and women maybe my people misses, because all my people are loud and will be heard. You will hear them whether you like it or not.
All of you are asking.
Mera, you can't play around with us.
As we come to the tail end of the show, Meshack, what is your controversial opinion?
Wow. The controversial opinion is just what I had said. We will go to the vote, to the ballot in 2027. As a people of Luo Nation, we will vote whoever we choose. But if our vote does not produce the president, we will have that president who other people will choose. Thank you. That is our game changer going forward.
Interestingly enough, what do you make of the candidature of Dr. Fred Matiang'i?
Oh, I think people are lying to Matiang'i and Maraga.
Not people, Kioni.
Kioni might be one of those people, but many people are lying to them. You see, we've been here enough time to see something we can compare it with. They told Peter Kenneth sometimes that you have the seat, shughulikia other things. This one is yours. And then you realize when elections happen, you're not even halfway to the winner. So someone like Justice Maraga, for example, they are making him start moving around with a lot of hopes. But the truth is, this country needs a politician to be the president. Maraga is still not a politician up to this morning. Up to this morning. He's still a lawyer and a judge. When we were having the dialogue, the People's Dialogue Festival, you had the question, when young people post the question, he is still coming out as a judge. And we love that. I think if you were to ask me, I would have supported by everything. Maraga should have gone to be the IEBC chair. We would get the right thing. We would get someone who upholds the law the way it is. And that would be the greatest thing. Matiang'i might have done well in making some radical changes in the dockets, but presidency, again, is not just about making radical changes. Radical changes, some of those radical changes are the things that have led William Ruto to where he is. Because he came into the office, we call it zeal without knowledge. It can only make you worse than, it is worse than stupidity in action. Because you just want to change everything. He just came with the political mind to change things, and then so whatever, everything Uhuru left was to be changed. Change this one until Gen Z happened.
And then result is you've stolen him.
That one we will talk about some other day. We are just telling everybody else mapema, so it is not like mtu asishtuke if it is 2027 and we have the new president visiting us a lot in Nyanza. We'll do it again.
People shouldn't be worried. Advise you
as long as it is not against the law.
Yes, okay.
We will do it.
Advise your controversial opinion.
Maybe I would have two. One is maybe to say that politics, like life, rewards the most hardworking people and individuals. When you look at the political environment today, I would dare say President William Ruto is the single most hardworking politician as it is today. And yet he's also the one who holds the highest office. And if politics like life rewards the most hardworking people, then we must not be ready to get very shocked at the end of the process when the most hardworking is actually rewarded. Because you look at it, you look at the effort that President William Ruto is making, both in terms of the development and the politics, and you look at our bandwagon of the opposition that only wants to make some responses from hotels. Then Mokua, if you have your child and you want them to follow the example of hard work of one of the two, I'm sure you know who you would be able to point at. And secondly...
No, before you go to the second one,
yeah.
Are you talking about hard work or you're talking about smart work? The people who do hard work, if I understand you, they use physical stamina. They're the people you'd find kwa mjengo.
Yeah.
So are you talking about hard work or smart work?
Before the existence of the word smart work, when all of us grew up, we were told work hard.
In class
and work hard, and you will be able to actually live your life well. At the time, the definition of hard work included smartness.
Okay.
So it is only in the modern generation that we have tried to remove smartness from hard work, which in my view always looks like trying the smart work of it. The smart work bit of it is more trickerous and more like street work, which does not necessarily anchor on legality. And that's why
you've given a smart answer.
That's why I insist on hard work as it is. And then the second one is on June 25th, we had the Gen Z uprising in this country, which spoke to a lot of issues, spoke to what we expect of our leaders, integrity, transparency, and all that. I would want to tell the young people of this country that leadership does not just start and end at opinion and speaking about what you want. It goes hand in hand to actually being part and parcel of that process by actually voting that leader that you actually want. What we have experienced so far is a country where we vote for leaders, and after we vote for them, we behave like they were granted to us by another country. As we go into the next election, we must be able to be prepared that those things we raised during the Gen Z crisis, we have by-elections coming immediately after the constitution of the IEBC. The leaders that we will be able to have during those by-elections will be the total reflection of what will happen in 2027. So if those things we were saying in the Gen Z crisis and the Gen Z time are anything and they are anything to stand for, then the result must actually be seen not in 2027, but they must be seen during the by-elections. Because at that time then, it will be reflective of what happens at the end. If we miss it at the by-election, let's not expect miracles at the end.
Advice, thanks a lot for giving us a lot of pieces of advice.
Thank you.
Meshack, thanks for your time. That has been Fireside, the home of politics, policy, and polity. Asante sana.
Thank you.